Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
I got a 6-year-old in my calculus class in college, and it's going to take my job.
What is this nonsense? Comic Sans? Butler had never seen this film, and I got the indication he hated it. She's like, "You pussy, get back in the game!" He rebels against maturity by taking a job at a movie theater. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's me. At a video store.
Well, this is now owned by Disney, so you're going to see a remake at some point.
Hello there. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Podcast. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because the more popular movies were released at the same time, or the movie simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the movie, or perhaps don't love about it, but we will always recommend you revisit it. If you enjoy our podcast, we want to hear from you. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Find us. Our podcast is available on all platforms with a backlog of 175 episodes for your listening pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
How you doing?
Season 15 begins.
It begins. What are we doing?
We are doing the 1988 film Alien Nation.
Interesting.
Which I can't wait for you to shit on.
Whoa. What's that about?
In Los Angeles, circa 1991, humans live alongside extraterrestrial humanoid beings whose spaceship crash landed 3 years earlier. This coexistence is not always harmonious, as exemplified by segregated slums and the uneasy partnership of police detective Matthew Sykes with new humanoid partner Sam Francisco. However, the pair begin to overcome their differences as they investigate a slum drug ring led by the slippery William Harcourt. This is, what is it, Space Cops or some other terrible title?
All
It had like
titles?
3 terrible titles.
It did. It did.
Alien Nation was definitely the best title.
The best of the best. The best of the worst.
Yes.
What was that phrase again? Slum drug land? What was that?
Slum drug ring.
Slum drug ring. You can't say that 3 times fast.
No, I'm surprised I said it once.
So Alien Nation is a runtime of 91 minutes. It's rated R. Production budget of $16 million. It came out on Friday, October 7th, 1988. I was 13. Opening week.
I was 1 year old.
Those were the days. Opening weekend, I did $8 million. Domestic, $25.2 million. International, $6.9 million for a worldwide total of $32 million.
So it probably just made its money back.
Who
Do you
knows
think
what-
marketing back then was that much? Do you think they marketed that hardcore back then?
No, and I'm sure it wasn't that expensive. And who knows what the the home box office sales were. So.
Probably pretty hot considering they made a TV show.
And 5 TV movies.
That's right.
Production company was 20th Century Fox and American Entertainment Partners, and it was distributed by 20th Century Fox. So it came out on October 7th, 1988. It went up against Memories of Me, Gorillas in the Mist, and Punchline.
I know Gorillas in the Mist. I might know Punchline.
You know Gorillas in the Mist, but have you seen Gorillas in the Mist?
Only parts.
There you go.
I should watch it. I do like Gorillas and Sigourney Weaver and Jane Goodall in general, so
Nice.
I should watch it.
I wonder how that ends. In a limited release, you had Clara's Heart. And a wide release on October 14th, the week after, you had The Accused. We've talked about The Accused on this podcast before.
Yes.
Great film. Really good film. Really tough scene to watch again. So,
yes.
But it's a really good film. In a limited release, you had Pumpkinhead and Another Woman. The week before, September 30th, you had Heartbreak Hotel and Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Was that the first Elvira?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
And in limited release, you had Bird. Now, I don't know, to be fair, I don't know the history of Elvira. But I want to say if it's the first movie, I don't know if it's the first time that we've ever seen Elvira. She might have been more of a TV celebrity.
Okay, because I was going to say, I thought she went back to like the early 80s.
But I'm readily admitting
much,
to the people that are going to complain, I don't know the history of Elvira. I apologize.
Me neither. It just sounded like it was the first movie, which is why
I believe it is. But again, I'm not certain on that.
I'm really surprised you listed Pumpkinhead. I've always been very surprised no one's ever gone back and remade Pumpkinhead in the last like 10 years.
Isn't there like 8 sequels?
Yes.
Yeah.
But they've all been from the early 2000s. I'm surprised no one in like the 2010s or 20s now have gone back and made like a streaming service is so prevalent. It's not a great movie,
Yeah.
but it's an awesome monster.
Maybe it slipped through the cracks.
Maybe.
Maybe you're the man to do that, to make that happen, Butler.
Can I get Lance Henriksen back, or is he too old?
You better hurry. We love you, Lance. This movie is directed by Graham Baker, who's done The Final Conflict. That's the second time we brought up this Final Conflict. We did this last week too. Beowulf, not the Beowulf you're thinking, but the other one.
The Highlander Beowulf.
Yes, and Impulse. Written by Rockne S. O'Bannon, who's done a bunch of TV shows, Farscape, Defiance, and more recently Evil. Cinematography.
Did you watch Farscape?
No. That was too sci-fi for me. There's like a limit to my sci-fi.
I think Oldfield wouldn't like that, but Newfield seems to have watched a lot more sci-fi lately. Well, I think you'd appreciate a lot of the practicals and stuff.
Why don't you give me a comparative? What you compare it to? Because I watched Star Trek Next Generation, but I did not watch Deep Space Nine. Like I just was like, I don't know if I could do that. So is it like a Deep Space Nine?
No, it's really out there sci-fi, but it's all practicals. It's very strange, but it's got really interesting characters. I think you would like it enough to stay on with it. It's only 3 seasons or 4 seasons, and they're shorter seasons.
But see, you don't ever watch anything I recommend. So why would I watch something you recommend?
Because you watch everything.
I watch a lot. This is true. Cinematographer was Adam Greenberg. He's nominated for an Oscar for Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Also, he did Ghost and La Bamba, to name a few. Composer was Kurt Sobel, who did The Flamingo Kid, A Cool Dry Place, and Defenseless. Edited by Kent Beda, who has done This Is Spinal Tap, Inner Space, and the Angry Birds movie. He actually did both Angry Birds films.
Really?
Yeah. Produced by Gail Ann Hurd and Richard Kobritz. Hurd has done Aliens and Armageddon, just to name a few. She's done a lot of films.
Big time.
Yes. Kobritz has done Christine and the Salem's Lot TV movie. That was in the 80s, I believe. It was the 80s, I think. Again, another film that doesn't have a big cast, Butler.
It actually has background characters, I guess, but yes.
Well, guess what? They ain't in my cast list, so because they're background characters. You know, James Caan, who plays Matthew Sykes, who was nominated for an Oscar for The Godfather. He's also in Thief, an episode we did. Rollerball.
So good.
Yes, and Misery. We are big James Caan fans, and we were super sad when he passed away this year. Rest in peace, sir. Mandy Patinkin as Sam Francisco, who is also known as George by Sykes in this movie, which we'll get into why they call him George. He's in The Princess Bride, the TV show Homeland, and Dick Tracy, an episode we did. Terrence Stamp as William Harcourt was nominated for an Oscar for Billy Rudd, The Limey. He was in The Limey. Now he wasn't nominated for an Oscar, although I would have been okay with it. And The Adjustment Bureau, another episode we did.
That's right. And he's General Zod, dude.
There you go. General Zod.
That's what he's so recognizable, and his voice is so recognizable, even under all that makeup. I was like, is that Terrence Stamp?
Oh, when you first meet him, and my note is that you meet this guy and he's so stiff and he's so serious. He can't be the bad guy in this, can he? And you're like, yeah, it's just like, oh, of course he is. Anyway, well, here you go, Butler. Before we get into the rest of the cast list, better Zod, Stamp, or Michael Shannon?
They're very different Zods.
This is true. This is very true.
I got to give it to Stamp because he's going to live the test of time, and Shannon is not like the thing that stands out. Although I think Shannon's coming back for the new Flash movie.
Well, Michael Shannon's motivation as Zod is he got a lot more stuff to do more than Stamp did.
His motivation as Zod is a lot closer to the comic books.
But it makes Zod a better, well-rounded character in terms of his motivation to be the villain, or not a villain in his eyes.
If it was a movie where humans were on the other alien planet, Zod would be the hero. I want to bring humanity back. I'm trying to make Earth. Like that would be like, oh shit, all right, yeah. I gotta kill these bugs.
And Terrence Stamp is a very good actor, but I also think Michael Shannon is a fantastic actor, and I think he doesn't get enough credit.
I was gonna say Michael Shannon might be one of my if I made a list of top 10 favorite actors, he'd be up there.
He does.
Michael Shannon is awesome.
He does what he wants to do, like in terms of what roles he picks, and I mean, I gotta respect that. He's one of those. You're right. If someone was like, "Here's money, go make a movie," if there was a role that I could have Michael Shannon in, I would try to get him. That's how good he is. Yeah,
he's great in Shape of Water as well. Like it's everything.
He's good in everything.
What was the one where he was the father and the kid was like an alien or had powers?
Oh, but wasn't Adam Driver in that?
Maybe.
Yeah. I remember him. If you'd never seen the Waco TV show that they did a couple of years ago.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he plays one of the FBI agents who is like talking to David Koresh and stuff like that in that movie. He's really good in that. He's good in everything. So sorry about that 5-minute Michael Shannon tangent we just went on. But anyways, back to the cast. Kevin Major Howard as Rudyard Kipling, who's one of the aliens or one of the newcomers. Excuse me, not aliens. One of the newcomers. Terrence Stamp also plays a newcomer, as does Mandy Patinkin. Howard's in Full Metal Jacket and Sudden Impact. Leslie Bevis as Cassandra. She is the newcomer stripper that kind of comes on to the Sykes character.
Is she a full-on stripper or is she just like an exotic dancer?
Well,
she doesn't take
my
off
note
clothes.
is that she's the worst stripper ever because that's just there's nothing I like in that scene in terms of like if I'm there to see whatever I'm there to see, that's not it.
George liked it a lot.
No, of course George liked it. She's in Spaceballs and the TV show, the soap opera Young and the Restless. And then Peter Jason is in there. I only have him in it because he was in Prince of Darkness, which is an episode we did. He plays one of the cops, Fedorchuk. He's like a terrible cop. He's also in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. He plays one of the senators. I didn't realize that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's it for the cast. There's a bunch of other people that are just kind of like extra.
There's the big guy who's in like everything back then. He played Shao Kahn, but I can't find him on the IMDb.
Exactly.
credits.
So I didn't hunt him down.
But he was in everything in the 90s and early 2000s.
So I'm curious why you think I'm going to hate this film.
I have never seen this film. I put this on the list because
I have seen this film.
I watched the Alienation TV show a lot growing up because it always repeated in the Sci-Fi Channel. So anytime I was homesick for school or it was the summertime, I would watch Sci-Fi Channel ad nauseum. Paranormal documentaries, Lost in Space, the original show, Land of the Giants, which is terrible, Godzilla reruns, and Alien Nation. That's actually also where I watched all of Quantum Leap. And I liked the show originally. The concept of the show, it was a little hokey, but I liked what they were going with. I liked the main actors. I thought they were very good. It wasn't a very good show, but it kept my interest. And I liked the parallels, what they do with the aliens, but I never watched the movie. And my parents had the movie in their VHS case forever. And my mom was always like, why don't you watch the movie? Why don't you watch the movie? And I would always remember, I'd always take it out, after school or whatever. I'd always watch a movie and I'd take out like 3 VHSs and go, all right, which one of these 3 do I want to watch? And it came out almost every time and I never watched it. I never decided to watch it. So I think that it's perfect for Forgotten Cinema because it's a movie I forgot about, but I remember the TV show. I remember the concept better than I remember that it was ever a movie. As well, growing up, my respect for James Caan had grown. It's just like, why have I never watched this movie? I've watched the TV show. This one has James Caan. I need to watch this. But watching it now, I don't think it's a bad movie.
Nope.
But I think that it needs that alien shtick to work. And I think the movie, based on the plot, the procedure, the police plot that it's going for, is rather generic if you didn't have aliens involved. And I think that might be why you might not like some of it. As a movie, as a story, aliens aside, I don't think it's bad, but it's not memorable. I think the alien shtick is what makes it work. So that's why I don't think you're going to shit on it. I don't think you're going to hate it, but I think that's going to be a problem I think both you and I both agree with.
So you think I'm going to...
I could be wrong. I've been wrong before.
Well, I'm going to have a problem with it because of the aliens.
No. But because without the aliens, the plot doesn't work as well.
Well, it's an allegory for immigration.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the actual case, as someone who's like, I know I'm pretty into detective stuff, but I know you even more so are. And I think as a police case, it's a little rote. it's a little overdone.
Well, it's like Wind River when we talked about how them solving that case, and like Graham Greene talks about how
And
like
it
this
fell
case
into
is
the
solving
lap.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like that. It's not really dependent upon the mystery, even though there is a mystery to it, but the mystery really isn't a big
The
part
forefront.
of it. Right.
The theme is almost more important than the story in this movie.
It is. And it's like the theme of, in terms of like, because the Sykes character isn't.
You mean shithead?
Yeah, I know. Butler's referencing the fact that in the Newcomers language, Sykes is similar to, like, he says like
Sykes,
and I mean that means, you know, excrement head and shithead. But the like Sykes character isn't bigoted enough to kind of hit home on the two guys from different walks of life, realize that, you know, there's nothing different about them, you know, like that kind of theme,
right?
You know, but Sykes has an awesome line in this where he's like, don't, when he makes a
don't
comment,
take it wrong, I'm a bigot.
Don't take it personally, I'm a bigot. I'm just like, that's a great line, but he's just not. It's not enough for me because I know what they're trying to do,
right? Everyone does. It's pretty on the.
Oh no,
on the cuff.
it is absolutely. It's absolutely on the nose with the stuff about the immigration, about, you know, the newcomers coming down and they're, you know,
taking my jobs.
Yeah, all that, like that whole stuff when they were doing the commercial, and it was just like, oh my God, I get it. We get it.
I got a 6-year-old in my calculus class in college. Yeah. Who's going to take my job.
There's a couple of things like that too, where they kind of reveal details about the newcomers and their advanced intelligence, but they don't really ever like brace you for that. You just have to figure it out as you're listening to, oh, I guess they're smarter than us at a young age. Okay. All right. Okay. We get that.
Right.
You know, so stuff like that. The whole idea about how they first got here and they were in the mines and they were in quarantine and all that stuff. Like that's something we learn in the end of the second act.
No, they do say that they were in quarantine during the write-up, I believe. I'm pretty sure they say that they arrived, they were placed in quarantine. 3 years later, they won the court case for their release.
3 years, it's awfully
short
quick
for aliens
to get hit to like all that stuff. And here's the other thing, though. Here's the problem. Not the problem I have, but here's something else that the movie starts off with the blur, and the blurb's on the poster. But the movie starts off with 1991, right? That opening. They've come to Earth.
Right.
Yeah, they've come to Earth. They've landed. They've come to live among. No, because it's 1991. They've come to Earth to live among us. You know, they've learned our language, all that stuff. So that makes it seem like they landed in 91, the way that's written out in the opening of the movie. But they're actually landing in 88.
Yep.
So it's like, it's a little confusing when it starts, because when they do that, and then they had the shot of Reagan, I'm like, Reagan's in 91? What?
I had the same thing. I was like, wait, are you saying that Reagan won a third term?
Yeah, that really confused me.
I had the same exact note. That was Reagan won a third term, and then I realized that, oh, okay, wait.
Mm-hmm.
It was a year before they got out of quarantine.
So to answer your question, no, I don't hate this film. But it's not perfect. No. And again, this is another film that had a lot of issues in terms of completing it and getting what they wanted to do out of it.
It seems to be the theme of the last, we've done out of the last 10 episodes, 3 or 4 of our films have had this problem.
Mm-hmm. But it's like some of the opening, the whole gunfight, and that's decent action. But that reminds you,
very 80s lethal
very
action.
Very rough 80s. The whole way the movie looks is very almost like as is. Like when I was watching this, I was like, is this on purpose? Like, are they purposely shooting this just kind of like, you know, like as is? And then I read the note where Greenberg, you know, was approaching the film with like a documentary style technique.
I like the look of the film, other than the beach scene.
It's dark.
what? No, I don't mind the darkness of the beach scene when they find the body
Okay.
washed up. I thought the grays were too gray, and it looked like they didn't do a pass over at all. It just looked like they filmed it, like you said, as is. And that was the only time I really noticed it where it bothered me, and it didn't seem like it was trying to be gritty. And it just seemed like it was trying to be lazy.
I just think the note that I read was that he was trying to make it just documentary style to, number one, to kind of hide or not give away the makeup of the aliens, just to kind of like we just said, present it as is. So I think that's where all that came from. And I also have a note where that scene when they're on the beach, like the night scene, not the day scene, the night scene, like he shot it very hard, very natural. He used the car headlights, the only way to light the scene.
I like that though.
Yeah, but I just don't. I don't know.
Hardcore is bathed in light, even though he was the bad guy. And the guy who didn't want to give in to the drugs is a little shrouded.
But here's my not my problem, but here's my question or my concern is that, if you're going to shoot a movie like that, it's very difficult for a movie to hold up years later, decades later, unless the script is the story is really compelling. You know what I mean? Like, cause there's,
absolutely. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
Like when a movie doesn't look perfect, but the script is really good, you don't care. And if a movie is written well and the audio sucks, you care because the audio is terrible. So with this movie, that was just a tangent. With this film, because the way it's shot documentary style, I don't think it does the movie any favors in terms of its moving on in the future, in terms of people watching it and appreciating it.
Okay, I agree. It didn't do anything special with the cinematography at all.
Right. I mean, it's a stylistic choice, and that's fine. I just, in terms of maybe this is more of a note for why it's forgotten, that it's not, when you look at other films back then, when like a movie like you talked about Lethal Weapon, there's a lot more going on in camera style wise.
Lethal
visually.
Weapon is probably one of the first, and movies I think
Die
still
Hard.
take it today, like in terms of like even the LA set, like that heat of LA, like the way Lethal Weapon filmed that, everyone has copied ad nauseum since then. And Lethal Weapon came out in also 88 or 89.
No, Die Hard was
86.
88. Lethal Weapon was 87 or 86.
Yeah, it's like they've been copying Die Hard's like that heat, LA heat ever since. And I don't think it's ever stopped. But yeah, you're right in terms of alienation. It just at best looks like every other cop film.
Right.
What did you think about the look of the aliens though?
I mean,
because I have mixed thoughts about it.
It's okay. Like I always thought it was kind of just like, I was just kind of like, not really blown away by it. But I think that your reaction to watching it on the TV show where you thought it was a little hokey, I agree with that. I think because the movies are rated, I guess that kind of gives me a little bit of a different view on the aliens in terms of I'm okay with the look, but it's not anything. It just looks not, I want to say weird in terms of like, oh, these guys look different than us, but weird in terms of the makeup effect. I don't, you know what I mean? Like they're not very attractive, which is fine. Like that stripper scene or the dance scene, I'm just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, she's okay looking enough. I think that I like the TV show because they looked a little more similar. And in this movie, they all look pretty different. And it doesn't seem like they look different because of a stylistic choice, but because of like, hey, we just don't have the time to make a similar prosthetic for everybody. So we're going to stretch it, make it work for every different head we got. Whereas the TV show, they all kind of had like, humans, we all look very different, but we don't look like, we don't have weird lobes and stuff like that like not everybody's that different. Like we have a basic shape, but these aliens kind of did. And the fuzz on the back of their head, I thought was so poorly done.
It's
and
funny.
I guess that was a choice that came afterward.
I didn't notice that until maybe like 45 minutes into the movie when
Same with me, yeah.
when like they were in the light. I'm like, oh, there's actual hair, because the spots on their head are supposed to be like hair. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So why have hair? And then they add it. It looks like it's fake hair. It just looks bad.
Well, did you read the note that the males are going to have spines on the top of their heads in this movie?
Yeah, it would come up like a mohawk when they got threatened.
And what's funny is, so when I watched this, I've seen it, like I said, I saw this film before, and I was throughout the whole film, I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's a guy that does have has horns. And then obviously the transformation because I always remember him opening up the blue liquid in part way. I always remembered that. Pouring it and drinking, missing half his mouth, but drinking it.
Oh yeah.
And doing that. I always remember that image from the movie. But I completely forgot about how he transforms. I was like, oh right, that happens.
But the ridge that goes up, I noticed in Galaxy Quest.
Oh, right.
The bad guy has the ridge that goes up when he gets angry.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if they took that from if Galaxy Quest took that.
Well, I know what's funny is I know this is last week's episode, but I'll say it anyways, that the scene, the meat grinder scene in Event Horizon, when they're walking to grab
the hallway, yeah.
That hallway, the guy who wrote Galaxy Quest watched Event Horizon and used that for the boom boom when they have yeah.
He's like, it looks like meat grinders.
So there's a little bonus. There's a little bonus for last episode. Sorry, but back to this one.
Throw it in.
But yeah, I know. Yeah. So I mean, you were kind of with the effects? It's not Stan Winston, but it's Stan Winston people.
Exactly. That's why I was a little disappointed. Like, it looks okay, but I think the TV show actually did it better, which makes me sad because the TV show was obviously done on a budget. But they're still learning. I do like how they built the prosthetics in a cost-effective way. The people that were close up got a lot of work done. You know, obviously, like Mandy Patinkin's character and Harcourt, you know, they had the faces that move. A lot of work was done. And then the secondary actors in the background, they could move their mouths and it moved a little bit. And then the third actors way in the back just basically had masks that couldn't move.
Yeah, they had A, B, C, D makeup breakdowns in terms of,
I like that.
Yeah. That's just a cheap way to kind of you're not going to see them, so don't worry about them. But here's the other thing, Butler. The note I read was that there were 300,000 newcomers in LA. And I'm like, how many newcomers are on that ship when they dropped?
6 million.
Are you kidding me? There were 6 million?
They say 6 million.
On that one ship?
I don't know if it's one ship or two ship, but yeah, 6 million.
Dear Lord.
I believe total.
Did I fall asleep at that point? Maybe I did. I might have fallen asleep.
It was a real quick blurb at the beginning.
Wow. All right. I mean, geez.
I mean, technology, you had to get a really wide shot. You'd have to do it CG, which they didn't have back then, really.
Yeah.
So nowadays it would be like it would look more like the Independence Day ship to be able to hold 6 million. But yeah, that ship was definitely too small to hold 6 million. But it's also a slave ship, so even though they took it over and brought it to Earth, who knows, you know, how they were packed and what kind of conditions they were in.
Right. So,
which the whole thing gave me very District 9 vibes.
I mean, it's that theme, that same theme. That District 9 has that same immigration theme.
Oh, exactly. But District 9, it's almost like exactly the same. Like they're in quarantine, they can't go. It's like very similar.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like I said, it's basing upon real life and we're all used to it. Did you see that Jerry Goldsmith was actually the person who originally was hired as a composer? Yeah,
and he did the score. And it was released, but in very limited. I wanted to listen to it.
Score was deemed too weird.
Which is weird because Jerry Goldsmith does some beautiful scores. So I want to see what a weird Jerry Goldsmith score is.
I don't know. Maybe it has a flute in it or something. I don't know.
Like the Hans Zimmer score for Dune is way out there, which is what he wanted, but you can't really listen to it while you're like working a ride on it. I want to know what a weird Jerry Goldsmith song sounds like.
So Butler, you talked about the alternate titles of the film. So they were Future Tense, which is
yes, I hated that one so much.
Outer Heat.
Yep, that's another one I hated.
Space Cop. And then what was going to be, but they finally changed it, Space Cop LA 1991.
Yes, even worse.
Where do they get these titles from? Space Cop.
A cheesy 1950s sci-fi like drive-in.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Like, what was the second one again?
Outer Heat.
Outer Heat.
Well, that was going to be
Where the hell did that come from?
That was going to be the title, and I think Red Heat came out that year.
So it stopped it. Which is great because Outer Heat, the movie would have been even more forgotten if it was called Outer Heat. You wouldn't have anything.
James Caan, Outer Heat.
James Caan doesn't like this movie.
I know. I had that note. Where's his? I have his comment here.
Yeah. Why the hell would you bring that up?
Yeah.
Well, why the fuck did you bring that up?
He was asked during an interview with the AV Club in 2013. He's like, a lot of people actually like that film. I do, for one. Yeah, well, I don't know. Oh, no, the interview says that I like it. And he's like, and Caan's like, yeah, well, I don't know. I don't have too many. I mean, I loved Mandy Patinkin. Mandy was a riot, but I don't know. It was a lot of silly stuff creatively. We had this English director. He's talking about Grant Baker, who I wasn't really that fond of. I mean, nice guy, but it was just one of those things where, you don't quit. You get through it. It certainly wasn't I wouldn't write it down as one of my favorite movies, but it was pretty popular. James Caan being diplomatic.
Not a fan.
Oh, man.
Being honest and diplomatic. I like that.
Patinkin's been known to be sometimes tough to work with. And he wasn't a big fan of it as well. Although he wasn't a fan of the fact that they changed the name of his character. Because
to George,
right? So originally it was going to be George Jetson, because
that's right. Yep.
The whole idea that when the newcomers come down, they gave them names, and they obviously like Richard.
They got lazy and stupid,
right? So his character was going to be George Jetson, but Hanna-Barbera said no, you can't use George Jetson. That's why Sykes is like, I'm just going to call you George. I'm not calling you San Francisco, and so he just calls him George, and that's kind of like the inside joke. But Patinkin, his quote is, I assume that the name of the character I agreed to play was George Jetson, and I was pretty pissed off that there was a screw up and that the name couldn't be used. I thought it made a tremendous difference to the piece that this guy's name was George Jetson because it gave a cartoon feeling, an innocence that was important to the movie's whole idea. It's a great loss to the piece that we couldn't recover, a great misfortune that couldn't be solved. It would have helped a lot. I actually disagree with that. Because I think George Jetson is too
on the nose.
Not on the nose, but too distracting. It's too distracting.
Okay.
I think because it's too humorous. It's too like, I mean, like, just to know that his name is George Jetson. Then how many times are they going to have George Jetson jokes in the movie and stuff like that?
Where's Jane?
Jane, his wife.
Clean house, Rosie.
Yeah, that's all I'm thinking. It's like, so I'm okay with him calling him George because he doesn't want to call him San Francisco. That worked for me. I kind of
I like
with
that.
The Jetson. The whole, if it was George Jetson, I would be with it.
It would be too much. He's innocent enough. You already get that at the beginning.
Yeah.
You don't need anything else.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I wasn't a big fan. I wouldn't have liked that, but whatever.
From the beginning, you get that Sam or George is a very innocent person who wants to do things by the book, who wants to make an example for his son and for his people. And I think that in itself is enough. That you don't need that George Jetson thing.
But here's the thing too with that. You only see his wife and his son once. And
twice. They're at the wedding.
Once. Yeah.
But they don't get
they're at the
really
wedding and the credits are rolling. But like you only see them one time in the movie. Then and in a movie like this, and maybe it's because we've been conditioned in movies like these, at some point his kid or his wife would have been kidnapped by the bad guy. Like they would have been brought into this issue that they were having. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
So he can say all he wants.
Style.
Right. He can say all he wants about how this is for his family, but we never actually see it. We just get this Hallmark video pic of them at the white picket fence waving goodbye. And that doesn't do anything for me. So I think to your point about the story and to your point about the mystery, I don't think there's enough there's not enough brought into it. There's not enough classic 80s cop drama action brought into it.
I think a big problem is that you don't get, like, the movie follows Sykes to a T. You get a couple of scenes where it follows George, which is kind of weird because you do follow Sykes so much that you really should follow the both of them in the way that like Lethal Weapon does. Don't make Sykes your only hero.
Mm-hmm.
Make it Sykes and George's movie. And they don't. They make it Sykes' movie. And I feel like that gets you out of being able to see a scene with George and his son, George and his wife, to realize that these aliens are just people, which is the theme you're going for, is immigrants, people of color, people of different faiths, religion, sexual preferences. They're all people. That's what you're going for in this movie. But you don't show enough of that because you focus only on the bigot. And he changes so fast, like you said, or he's not as extreme.
Does he change?
Doesn't make an impression.
Does he really change? Do you really get the sense that he changes his viewpoint on all newcomers?
No, he likes his one newcomer,
right?
Which almost makes me think: did he actually like his partner? Was he racist to black people before the newcomers came?
He probably
like you're the one good one, buddy. You're the one good one.
And how? Like, here's the thing too. Like, how serious of a slur is slag? Like, you never get the sense of how serious it is. Is it serious? Like, is calling a newcomer a slag really tantamount to calling, using the N-word? Like, so is it? Like, I need to know how bad that word is. And I need to know where it comes from. Because it just says slag, Slagtown. Okay, why are we calling them slags?
I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. So there's the rules of the bigotry are not put in place. Do you know what I mean? Like, the George character never tells him, I don't like being called slag. Don't call me slag. Never.
No, which he should have. Like, at first he's like, yes, okay, I'm happy to have a partner. But once they get a little bit more into it, he should have spoken up, which he never does.
But they always do that theme too as well. Not to kind of get off this point, but they always do that theme, and they have this in all these movies. And I think I wrote it down in the viewing notes. Always the constant theme is like people never living up to their potential. How he talks about him, you humans you talk to us about we could be whatever we want to be, and yet you guys do nothing. You know what I mean? That whole when they're drunk.
Yes, but it's a little different. He's talking about like the potential of humans, but it's also about the dichotomy of humans. Come here, do what you want to do, but also we hate you.
Of course.
That I don't think is explored a lot. I think the idea of infinite human potential is always explained, but the idea of the two-sidedness of it, that we allow everybody here into our country or any free country, come on down. But if you're different, also, we don't want you here. We want you here, but also get out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's that dichotomy that's like so messed up and weird.
It's human nature.
Yeah.
It's not just here in America. It's everywhere. I mean, we're the shining example of it, unfortunately. But, yeah. But the other thing too is, so you talked about, we talked about, how about this for kind of like a theme of what I think is not wrong with the movie, but what I think could be better.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about George and his family. We never really see his family. We skim the immigration issue, but we don't kind of dive deep. There's a bunch of things we don't dive deep enough on. We hear Sykes' daughter. I really don't care that he's at his wedding at the end of the movie because I've never met this girl. And I've never met the relationship.
Yeah, same.
I don't understand the relationship. It's like we've just done enough to make a film, and here's some action. Here's kind of like the plot of the whole film is also just kind of skimmed in. Oh, hey, they're doing this blue stuff that's basically PCP, and it makes them go crazy. It makes them go crazy if they take too much. But like nothing dives deep enough. Like there's no decision to dive deep on any of these issues. So what we're left with is a lot of broken promises and a lot of potential storylines that never they just don't amount to nothing. So it's like the sum of the parts aren't even enough to make a full whole movie, and it makes a weaker film. What do you think of that whole kind of theme of terms of like why this doesn't work?
I'd agree. That's pretty much it. It's like it doesn't focus enough on the racism and then tries to focus on the case, but the case isn't very strong. It's not a bad mystery, but it's a very by the books drug den kind of case. And
it's not very well hidden either.
It's like whatever. Like
Harcourt. I joke about how like obviously he's the bad guy, obviously. And
hidden for us as the viewer? Yeah.
No, but not even that. Like he's somebody who is obviously has a wealth and he's well liked amongst humans and he's putting on airs, but like he has no qualms about killing a guy, drug, having doing the whole drug transaction. Like he doesn't really care about protecting that image. He is really just kind of like, man, you find out, whatever. So there's really no consideration in terms of there's no concern on Harcourt's part in terms of like there's no bigger play. There's no bigger play to into his scheme. It's just like I'm going to sell drugs and that's it.
Yeah, I was really hoping for something a little more akin to like buying up parts of LA.
Yeah. Or like maybe
that's what I thought it would be. Like
a human partner who's also rich and is going to make money off it as well.
Yeah. Like I really thought like, okay, so he's buying land so that low income newcomers can live there.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's like, I was like, okay, so he's going to use that to try to leverage that and like bulldoze those homes and make casinos or nope. He's just selling detergent. That's what he does.
And so what we're saying is that these 4 guys in quarantine came up with the recipe for this blue drug that they take.
That all together they figured out how to make it.
That's amazing. Like, really?
One of them was a chemist.
I just
one of them was in biology.
But it's just like you created it. So you created this drug that gave what? That gave you the power over the heat. Like, because then George talks about how they all worked in the mines and that this drug was what they got when they worked in the mines.
They got a little bit of the drug as a reward.
Where did they work Where did they work? Was it? I keep saying mines, but where did they work on Earth? No,
they were slaves in outer space, the overseers, quote unquote.
So then these 4 guys came up with this drug before the quarantine. This is what I'm talking about.
No. So that part didn't confuse me. Like, so basically they're free, whatever, but you've got a ton of aliens that used to be addicts. So how do you make some money?
So
if we sell those drugs?
They back engineered it, is what we're saying.
Right. And they were like, we can make a lot of money if we can if these addicts got that drug again.
Right. Yeah. Okay. See, it's not enough. There's not enough there for me.
That part didn't bother me. I mean, but again, I found more interesting, what were these camps like? What was life like there? Like, there's so much like they just gloss over and it's like, all right, let's go with this rote police case.
Mm-hmm.
And there's George going like, you know what happened if our people found out about this or that, or if your people found out?
They'd probably just capitalize on it.
I'm sorry. Hey, yes, they would be making that drug for those aliens. They would use, the CIA or the FBI would
use the drugs to control. To control the newcomer.
You guys want to make some money? Here's a whole bunch of this. Go to Russia or whatever and go attack.
Yeah. Oh, please. 6 million newcomers came down. They're not in Russia. They're in America only, probably. Maybe a couple other countries.
No, I'm saying you send them over as soldiers.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe.
Just take advantage of it.
Oh, right. Oh.
But the whole thing is like
those things.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta cover it up. Like, A, they're not gonna find that drug then. B, like Syke said, you're still a police officer. Someone's gonna have to find out about this place and shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
You smashed a couple of pipes, doesn't mean they can't rebuild it.
Mm-hmm.
And Harcourt ripped the spines out of like 8 people. You're not gonna be able to cover that up. It's like they didn't think about these things when they were making this movie and like coming up with the case.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things I didn't think about, like the whole idea that he's the first newcomer cop there, and he's
the first newcomer detective,
but he doesn't get. They get one kind of scene where they're like, oh, no way, but there's nothing else. I mean, okay, they get the ETPD thing there.
Yeah, you get the car thing, but yeah, you don't get enough.
Yeah,
I do agree with that. There's not enough of that racism there between the PD,
and maybe that's probably why it became a TV show, because they thought they could,
the TV show does way more with it.
Well, it only ran for a year, right? And then they had TV movies.
Yeah, the movies.
Do you remember the movie names? I have them if you don't.
The Udara Legacy.
That's the last one.
I was looking them up, but yeah. So like by memory, I didn't remember.
I mean, watching this film now, I don't really have any notion to go watch the show, the movie. So I'm just like, whatever. Did you see?
I think.
Go ahead.
It could be done now again. Like, you'd absolutely redo this, especially like the themes are timeless.
I think you need to,
but you got to revamp it.
You need to hone the script in on something. You need to, what movie are you telling?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I think you need that. I didn't realize that James Cameron did a rewrite on this film.
Oh, uncredited rewrite. Yeah.
This, the screenplay, October 1987 screenplay has his credited his name, but he's not in anything else. But I believe
he probably wrote that ocean water hurts them because the ocean's got to be involved some way with James Cameron.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that how the salt water affects them.
Did it remind you of Signs? Because it reminded me of Signs, and I was like,
Oh,
did Shyamalan take this from there?
Doubt he's seen. Oh, maybe he saw this film. But yeah, no, I mean, I guess it is what it is. Why would you live on the coast if that affects you? I would be living in.
I was thinking the same thing. You'd be living in the middle of the country.
Yeah. Like, what happens if you're on the beach and the wind blows the salt water in the air and then it gets on you? Do you get burned?
Yeah, the whole thing at the end where he's on the helicopter, it's like water is splashing everywhere.
Yeah, do you not?
Everywhere.
What happens if someone throws salt in your face? Like, you gonna get burnt? Like,
is it the water or is it the salt?
Yeah. What's the limit? What's the limit we're doing here?
Yeah, it's stupid.
I also like this is a dumb no because I'm like but like the whole scene where he eats the beaver and he's like beaver, and I'm thinking to myself, so now all I'm thinking is like, so now there are farms in the state in the United States that are basically breeding beavers to be eaten and slaughtered. Like, why? Like, that's like, I'm like, really? Is that now a thing?
Didn't he say they're like space beavers though?
No, he said they're beaver. He just said beaver.
Okay.
Space beavers. So where'd you get that? I mean, all right, but I think he might have said something like it's like something they ate on. Maybe because all he said that when you cook it, the nourishment, we can't get the nourishment. But then why
they can't cook the food?
But then why does sour milk is alcohol? That's not fresh. Stuff like that.
No, sour milk's like, it's almost like we ferment things. Same thing with that.
True. But that's gross.
It is gross. But that's the thing. It's like, it's supposed to be gross so that you go, that's gross. So even the most like unracist person would be like, that's too far. Are you come on, man. It's a different culture. You got to be all right with it. Plus, imagine the resale value, man. Your milk goes bad. You got some neighbors next door. $5, you got my spotted milk. Boom. You never have to buy milk again.
What did you think about the opening gunfight scene?
I liked it. It was very 90s. It was very cheesy. It was very much like, I always talk about like, I like the things I liked like in early 90s, late 80s action movies. When I get to see those when we do Forgotten Cinema and I've never seen it before, it's always nice to see a fresh, old school gunfight scene that, you don't get anymore. And this was kind of the same way. Like he's hiding behind that pole where 90% of his body is exposed and they still just hit the pole and he's like, oh, thank God I'm all right.
That's like True Lies.
Yeah. Only in the late 80s, early 90s.
But like, so it goes through the pole, but doesn't go to him. But when he's in the car, when he's behind the car, the holes are being blown through the car.
Yep.
He's a cop. He should be hiding behind the engine block of the car where you're in the front of the car where you're supposed to, but he doesn't.
No.
But James Caan does, or Sykes does, but Sykes never, his partner's getting lit up. Like,
and he never goes and shoots him.
He never shoots. He just watches. And I was just,
he doesn't provide cover fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing.
I was like,
you just want him to die.
Plot device.
Want George to be your partner.
Yeah. Plot device. He has to die here.
Yeah. And the other guy doesn't like, all right, so they're shooting forward. You could absolutely military crawl to where they've already shot and they're not going to reshoot. And he's just standing there waiting for it to be his turn, surprised when he actually gets shot.
Mm-hmm.
They're clearly going down the whole car in a line. Move to where they've already shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I did not like that part.
But
I knew it was going to happen. I knew immediately.
Of course.
When I started doing it. Like, it's like, just kill him already.
I mean, one of my notes is that this kind of falls apart in the third act, but that's really unfair because it's not held together well. So I think that was inevitable.
Well, it's a bad edit as well.
True. And you're referencing the fact that they had to cut stuff.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of stuff that, like, I didn't know some things like, I guess Sykes has a gun at one point that doesn't have a gun, then has it again.
Mm-hmm.
That I didn't realize. But there's stuff like him telling George to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Was him telling George to go ask other questions. And it seems like because of the way they cut the movie, it's him asking George to leave so he could fucking perv on this lady. And it just didn't make a lot of sense in that scene. And then when Cassandra's her name, right?
Yes.
When Cassandra's told that Sykes is dead, and she goes, Sykes is dead! Ah! and she pulls the gun and she tries to shoot Harcourt. It makes no sense
because
in the movie.
there was
another
another character.
What?
They cut out another character.
Yeah.
So
which I didn't read until afterward.
Yeah. So there's a character of Watson who was her boyfriend. And that's why she tries to kill him, tries to kill Harcourt. But like they
redid it as Sykes.
They recut a bunch of stuff. The scene when Harcourt's at the beach, because that's not supposed to be Strader, that's supposed to be Watson they killed. They reshot. And that's why you have that one shot of Harcourt where he says Strader's name, because initially it's because that whole stuff is just taken from the Watson scene. So they had a character that just completely removed from the movie.
Right. Which made the whole movie kind of fall apart, I feel, because of that.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden it didn't make sense for Cassandra. Why is Cassandra even being questioned?
Yeah. And she has one major scene, and that's when she's hitting on Sykes. And I never revisit it. Never go back to it. Never go back.
They would. I thought she'd be a bigger character when she was there when they were doing their big meetup. And it's never revisited.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense why they were interviewing her. If Watson was actually in a character, all of a sudden now it would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you're just trying to add a female character, which is something we talk a lot about, especially in older movies. Throwing a female character and just have one and like not actually giving her due.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, yeah, we got a broad, whatever. Let's keep on with the movie. We want Patinkin and we want Caan. We don't care about anybody else.
That sounds like a studio exec.
Exactly. Just come on. Well, it just doesn't make sense. And like we talked about Event Horizon last week and Cursed a couple weeks ago about studio interference and strange edits and cuts. But this is the first one with Cassandra screaming, "Sykes, no!" Where I was literally left flabbergasted. All of a sudden the story made no sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that I don't get some cuts. Like, how did that make it past test audiences where they were like, yeah, no, that I got that.
Well, when it was cut, because it was re-edited to be shorter, faster, and it was supposed to be a summer film, which I agree with. It should be a summer film.
Yes.
But it got pushed back to October because of all the re-editing. So they were just slashing it to get what they wanted out of it. And that's what you get. You get a movie that's not, it's okay, but it's not anything that, it's not great. It's not what it could have been.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I thought you wouldn't like it. Cause it's like an okay cop movie bolstered by having aliens as,
I think
like the immigrants.
I think like the stuff between Caan and Patinkin is kind of what's okay. What I like, the kind of back and forth, and because they're both great actors, and they're kind of, I'm cool with that. The drunk scene is whatever. It's kind of like, all right, here we go.
I kind of like the drunk scene.
Yeah, but
I like that he's so hungover he can't stop the bad guy.
Yeah, but like,
then if you're gonna have that kind of comedy, you need it throughout the rest of it, which you don't have.
That stuff is interesting. I mean, I get what they're trying to do in terms of the allegory about immigration, so that's a little interesting. But it's not like I hate it. It's just, it's an 80s film. So you're like, I saw this. Okay, it's fine. Yeah. Like you said, the ending, the whole thing where he sticks his hand in and grabs them and all that stuff. The whole, it's like, it just ends too. Two things. One, it just ends. It's like, okay, we're at a wedding. And two, the voiceover. There's just a voiceover of Sykes at the end. Like, why?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh God,
it didn't bother me, but like,
I hate that. You hated
that. Yeah, I should have seen that
because it's like I could just in the edit. I gotta have something at the end here. It just ends. Oh, let's do a voiceover. Yeah, I'll write it up. Come on. So I just that kind of bugged me too.
I feel like this would make for a great remake. There's so much room to be remade. The concept is great, but it lives on its concept. And as a movie, it does not work. But like you said, it's a movie of the 80s and you're watching it, you're like, oh, all right. I don't know if that's me now saying stuff in 2022 that I would have said in, the 1990s when I would have watched it on my VHS growing up. Is that, am I a product now of just having watched movies like this, or District 9, which clearly borrowed some stuff from this and handled maybe the subject matter a little more realistically and better?
Well, what about? I think in I can understand a remake, but I think like the makeup needs to be better. I think the aliens need to be reimagined.
Yeah, I don't think you should make them too alien though.
I don't.
I think part of it is that like they look kind of human, and that adds to the terrible racist nature of humans.
Maybe, but I also think the plot or the story should match something along the lines of Outlander with Connery that we did. That whole about how Outland, not Outlander, Outland.
Outland
About
that we did for the pint
yes,
on their takeover.
where kind of like he's trying to figure out where the drugs are, who is actually putting the drugs out. Like it's not, they just don't say it's Harcourt. Like
Sure.
so, and he like that whole idea, like that the mystery of that should be better. I don't.
Oh, you need a stronger mystery. You shouldn't rely on your aliens.
Right. I don't want to see a series. I'd rather just see a movie, but that's just me. But we'll probably get a streamer if it gets remade. So
I'm okay. Like the old series wasn't that bad. It was cheesy, but it allowed you to really focus on different segments of racism and the way it works.
Mhm.
That I think that a movie can't explore fully.
Mm-hmm.
It also, when you're building a world that's that convoluted, there are camps and there's this and then there's this. It's tough to then have a good story and also explain that whole backstory.
But a movie makes you focus on one aspect, pick a lane and go, and then don't try to fill it all into one movie. I think with that's why I like films, because it's a snapshot almost. The series, I think you run the risk of just trying to explain everything, and you got to have 8 different characters from. It's like it's. You know what?
That's
you know
true,
what?
especially nowadays.
Maybe my complaint. Maybe my complaint is not about whether they should be a movie or TV. I think my biggest complaint, and we've already talked about this before, is that there's so much mediocre stuff out there, and there's so much content that I don't have the faith that this is going to be done by anybody that's interesting. Like it's going to be just lame, and it's going to be a waste of my time. It's not going to be good enough, and you know what I mean? I just don't have any faith that it's going to be something great, because I'm told about how all these shows and TV shows come out, the greatest thing ever, that they're all Academy Award winners, they're all Emmy winners. Give this person the Emmy now. Give this person the Oscar now. Like I'm always told that they're all great, but when I watch them, they're not great. and I respect everyone's opinion to like films, and movies and TV, but like not everything's great. And I just don't have any faith that if this was remade today, that it would be any good. Maybe that's I'm just sour and I'm just down guy today. Maybe I have no faith in my modern filmmaker, man, or something like that. I don't know. But
well, this is now owned by Disney, so you're going to see a remake at some point.
Will it be in one of the Disney World attractions?
Absolutely. They're going to make a theme park roller coaster.
Welcome to Slagville.
Yeah. It's going to be the alternate universe version of Small World.
Oh God.
Welcome to Slagtown. It's a perfect place.
So why are we saying it's forgotten then?
Although it had a bit of a cult following that turned into a series that lasted a year and a few TV movies that lasted almost a decade's worth of smatterings.
Interesting word.
They were like randomly placed. Like, yeah, like just throughout the 90s, like, yeah, we'll do an Alienation movie. We'll continue it. Actually, I think they did in 95, if I'm not mistaken. I think it all boils down to the case. The main story just isn't really something that anyone cares about. That stops it from really moving forward. I think that you have James Caan in it, which is great, but your dialogue isn't good enough, and the story's not good enough for Michael Caan to really like go forth and show off his acting talent. Like he's good in it. It's not like he's not good. It's not like Mandy Patinkin's not good, but there's not too much there for them to really be like in their highlight reels. Almost like Caan said, like of all the other films he's done, are you really putting that on the top of the list?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that hurts it. I think the case hurts it, the story and the alien effects. I don't think, well, I like the design of the aliens. I don't think it's done well enough to make it super believable and to make it something that people 30 years from now or 30 years removed from then can really look at and go, yeah, it looks good. And I think it ends up being a whole bowl of cheese with really good intentions. And I also think that I always say you need to make movies with themes and then start the story around that. What do you want to say? But I think this movie just kind of went, I want to say this. I just never bothered with the story. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people are going to go back to it unless they're going to go back for two reasons. James Caan. Oh, James Caan movie. I'm going to check that out from the 80s. And it's a science fiction film. So people who love sci-fi are going to go back to it. I don't think it's strong enough. And we talked about where we think it's weak that people will recommend it. You should see this film from 1988. It's fantastic. It's, James Caan's in it, Mandy Patinkin, because you can't tell it's Mandy Patinkin unless you hear his voice.
Right.
Or it's Terrence Stamp, unless you hear his voice. So I think James Caan's maybe what gets you there. But like even James Caan, like he's wearing like that Dallas Cowboy shirt. I feel like that's just in his wardrobe, and he just like, I'm just gonna wear this shirt for the movie. Shut up, I'm wearing
Give me a coat.
it.
I got this. This is what I'm wearing.
Yeah. So, but I mean, like I'd still watch it again. You know what I mean? It's not really something I'll never pop in again if someone's like, hey, let's watch this movie. Like, yeah, all right. I think maybe just because Caan and Patinkin together, kind of, I'm cool with that. All their scenes.
Sure.
Maybe if the Alienation show was still going on, people would go back and revisit the movie. I think more people know the TV show. Like I think you said this, the TV show than they do the movie.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
All right.
Where can they find us?
You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or ForgottenEntertainment.com because we are part of the Forgotten Entertainment family. While you're there, check out all the other great podcasts and video stuff we got for you, all the other great podcasters. They've got some pretty good stuff out there, so check those out. And you can also still find us wherever podcasts can be found, like we said at the beginning of the podcast. So while you're there, give us a rating, a review, subscribe. All that helps our channel grow. And join us on the lobby on Facebook, Forgotten Cinemas The Lobby. Let us know what you think of Alien Nation. If you guys liked it, if you guys hated it, what did you think of the TV show if you ever saw it? And have you ever just tried to drink a little bit of sour milk?
Ugh, don't.
What'd you think?
Don't.
It's bad.
Don't. We're not recommending that at all. Join us next week as we're going to be eating some iguana with Matthew Broderick. We're doing The Freshman from 1990. So that should be. Could you see that one?
I've never seen it.
Really?
I know of it, but I've never seen it.
Interesting. I don't know.
Or I might watch it and end up going, I've seen bits, but I don't know.
But so anyways, yeah, that's what we're doing next week, The Freshman. Until then, everyone have a great week. I am Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.